G'day, John.
How are you, Macca?
I'm good, thanks, mate. It feels weird that we're talking in a church.
Well, this is a very historic church, of course. It's the original Methodist church. It was the Bays, one of the early Bays churches, and of course finished up here at the Historical Village and Museum in Zephyr Street, still in its original condition, still very well used for weddings, services, funerals, whatever. It's a very, very well used piece of the equipment in the historical village.
Yeah, absolutely. But when I say weird, it just feels like I should be repenting right now. That's what it feels like.
You maybe look like you need to repent.
John, so this used to be where Pialba Place is now.
In Main Street, facing Main Street, yes. Virtually as you drove in, if you drive into the entrance off Main Street into Pialba Place, yeah, just on the right there, this church stood there for many, many years.
Earlier on you were letting me know about what else was beside there. It was quite interesting.
Well, of course, right there was the original power station for the Hervey Bay, which was privately owned in those days from the 1930s onwards up until Howard Power Station opened in 1948. And it got its water for the steam from a big dam where Coles service station is now. So it was commonly or locally referred to as the Platypus Pond, although I don't think there was ever a platypus in it. But that area has certainly changed greatly to what we remember as we grew up in the bay. It later became, when the power station closed, it became an iceworks, which before the days of refrigeration supplied block ice for all the houses and shops around the place. So yeah, twice weekly iceworks van would come round and fill up the old ice chest. So
wow,
yeah, things have changed.
Well, John, you know how we quite often think about our laws now and we go, oh, there's so many ridiculous laws out there. They had one that kept blowing up the power station.
Yeah, well, when the permission was granted, originally the in its wisdom, the council, the local council, which was then the Shire Council, said, look, we don't want any of this newfangled electricity in Hervey Bay.
We like hot meat.
So the Anderson family actually went to the government in Brisbane and they said, look, yes, we'll give you permission. Originally it was to be 32 volt. And just at that stage there was 240 volt AC was coming in, which was a lot easier to send over long distances, between here and Urangan and such without great losses. So they put it in on the condition that it ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But the only problem was in the early hours of the morning when the generators were busily churning away and no load on them, no electricity load on them, they would burn out. So the owner, in his wisdom, Andrew Anderson, very clever fellow, said, oh, well, we'll use the power to make some ice. So where the power station was when it was closed, they put in an iceworks. So that's, it's just amazing how times have changed in those few short years since the 1940s.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Now, you've been working on a project for a long time. There's already a book released. You've got it in front of you at the moment.
Moments in Time, Volume 1, which was a pictorial history of Hervey Bay and surround. Now, that book, hardcover, full cover, 200 pages, has gone extremely well, still sells very, very well. And the reception it received led us to believe, and talking with George Seymour, our mayor, we decided that Volume 2 was certainly needed, which would incorporate the whole of the Fraser Coast Regional Council area, which is Moments in Time Volume 2, and it covers the period from 1867 to 2020, and all of the main museums of the Fraser Coast. So we've got, apart from our museum here in Hervey Bay, we have the Maryborough and Wide Bay Museum, we have the Maryborough Hospital Museum, the Military and Colonial Museum, Boppel Museum, Rowena and Howard Museums, and they have all contributed information, photos and stories for the new book, Volume 2. And, I'm a fifth generation local, and believe me, the work that those other museums have done and the photographs that have been handed over for this new book, and the history is just absolutely amazing. There's so much in it that I didn't know. Things like graphite mines in Bhopal, copper mines out at Bruina, butter factories at Tyra, which I'd never heard about.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely staggering. And Bhopal's connection, of course, Bhopal Mountain, and locally, of course, macadamia nuts are always referred to as Bhopal nuts. And that really was the start of the worldwide industry of the macadamia nut. The local nut as a native, the only Australian native nut, edible nut. So Bhopal's got a great connection there. Howard, a big connection with coal and the mining industry, but also the federal parliamentarians that have come out of the small place of Howard.
Yeah.
And the houses are still there. You can go and see where prime ministers live, and the first lady senator for Australia, Annabelle Rankin, and stuff like that. It's just absolutely amazing stuff. So all of them, I don't want to single out any of them, but I mean, even the just yesterday I received from the Maryborough Museum absolutely historic photos of the flood in Maryborough of 1893.
Yep.
And some of those are just absolutely amazing to look at. Seeing boats tied up at Granville on the banks of the river, and so much water behind them, and you just realise when you look at things that are there today how high that flood was.
Oh yeah.
And there's been many floods over the years through Maryborough, but the 1893s, 55 and 74 stand out as the big ones. So all that's recorded in Moments in Time Volume 2. So it's quite amazing when you think we go back with photos there from early Maryborough in 1867, very start of photography. So again, I'm sure that this Volume 2 is going to be received with the same enthusiasm. All of the museums are very, very excited about it. Hopefully it'll make good Christmas presents for a lot of people.
Yes.
And help a lot of museums out financially.
Now, people can grab the first edition if you'd like to hold it up to the camera, John.
Yeah, we've got the first edition. That's Moments in Time Volume 1. Beautifully printed and bound, hard-covered, 200 pages, and very well done. Just a treasure trove of information and history. This one, of course, of Hervey Bay and surrounds the rural areas. But the new one, of course, will be the whole of the Fraser Coast. So it'll be quite unique.
Yeah, John, this is very exciting, and you guys have slaved away. I mean, that first one took you 12 months. How long did the second one take you?
Probably almost as long, because all of the separate museums have had to produce all of the records, and then I don't know if people realise how much work goes into producing a book, where things have to be, sorted out, what you're going to put in, what chapters you're going to put in, what you're going to cover, what you need, what you don't need, enhance the photos, get rid of all the cocky poo and the scratches and things from old photographs with the absolute magic of computers. We're able to do so much with old photos. So if there's big tears across them, we can clone all that out and make a very respectable photograph out of something that may have finished on the tip. So it's very important you don't throw your old photos out.
Sure.
Please bring them down, as we say in the book, bring them down to your local museum. Better to them to have a look at it, and they will know if they're of any value, worth keeping, and that's where they belong if they're of any historic value.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, John.
It's a pleasure, Macca.